What if I told you that the best food scene in Colorado wasn't actually in Denver, it was in one of the suburbs right next to it? In this video today, I'm gonna be sharing with you guys all about this very special Denver suburb that was in fact just rated as one of the top 8 in the Denver area by 5280 magazine, one of my favorite publications here in the Mile High City, Denver, Colorado. If you're curious about what suburb I'm talking about, make sure you guys stay tuned to a brand new episode of Living in Denver. Let's go. All right, so as I said, today's gonna be all about this very special suburb of Denver that is well known for being some of the best food and some of the most diverse in the entire state of Colorado. So what am I talking about? Where is this amazing place? Well, it's actually Aurora. Aurora is one of the most diverse, fastest growing suburbs in the entire state of Colorado. And as I recently mentioned, it's been featured as one of the top 8 Denver suburbs for food and just overall diversity in 5280 magazine. So definitely check out the magazine if you want to get more specific details on what they talked about. But in this video, I'm gonna be sharing with you guys just a little bit more about Aurora, what makes it special, maybe some of the pros, but also some of the cons, and all kinds of other great stuff, specifically about what makes it so diverse. But before we get started, just super quick, if you guys don't know me yet, my name is Adam Lang, licensed realtor here in Denver. I'll throw my info on the screen down below. Would love to connect with you guys. Feel free to reach out, even if you're not that serious about moving right now, or maybe not even for a couple years. If Denver at all is interesting to you, just feel free to shoot me a message. I would love just to provide you guys with some other free resources and just connect. Hopefully I find a few different ways that I can provide value to you. But as I said, guys, talking all about Aurora, I want to first talk a little bit about just some numbers, some statistics, just to give you guys a little bit of a reference on not only what Aurora is, how big is it, that kind of stuff, also where it's located. So Aurora is frequently categorized as being the most racially diverse city in Colorado. They have an incredibly rich culture in many different parts of Aurora, and it's definitely worth exploring, especially if you're somebody that maybe is thinking about Aurora from 10 or 15 years ago and don't realize how much it's changed just in the last decade or so. I grew up my entire life in Wheat Ridge and the western side of Denver, which is about a 35 to 40-minute drive west of Aurora. And, back then, I just never really spent much time in Aurora, and I liked my west side of Denver. I liked being closer to the mountains and some of the other features and benefits of being on that part of Denver. And I never really gave Aurora the time of day. And I'll tell you what, after becoming a realtor and just spending a lot more time in Aurora, I've been just amazed at how many awesome neighborhoods, some of the best restaurants I've ever been to, some amazing parks. There's just so much to offer. And that's why I want to put it out on this video today for you guys to check out if you haven't learned much about it yet. So when it comes to real estate, I'll talk about just a couple quick things on that, and then I'll show you guys where it's located on a map. So when it comes to real estate, this past year, the median home price was actually a little bit lower than other parts of Denver. It was $463,000. That comes out to about $226 for a price per square foot, and it also has a little bit lower median household income in comparison to some of the areas pretty close, which are just a little bit north of here, like Cherry Creek and some of the much more affluent areas. In Aurora, the overall median household income was at $84,320. Now, right now, definitely real estate's a little bit more challenging, especially for sellers. So the median days on market is a little bit higher than we're typically seeing. In fact, right now it's sitting at right around 46 days. If you check out niche.com, which I frequently refer to on my videos, that's a great place to look a little bit more into schools. But one of the best things about parts of Aurora is they feed into the Cherry Creek School District, which is always rated at the very, very top. I'd say one of the top 3 in the entire city of Denver and just the surrounding area. Boulder's always really high, Cherry Creek's always really high. There's a few different places, but the fact that a lot of the areas within Aurora do feed into that public school system, that is a huge plus and a big reason for a lot of people to choose Aurora as their home. And then I wanted to save the best statistic for last, which is just the population size. So Aurora is actually Colorado's 3rd largest city in the population as of last year, 2024. So I know we're almost through 2025, but the most accurate, up-to-date info that I have available is last year, and that population number is pretty staggering. It's actually almost 400,000 people just over 395,000 to be exact. All right, so now let's talk about just where it's located on a map. As I said, Aurora is a massive city, the third largest in Colorado. So when you're looking at it on a map, it does take up quite a large portion of the screen. It's basically, though, just east of Denver, and it actually spans 3 different counties. And not only does it have Adams County, but also Arapahoe and Douglas. Now, since it is such a large area, commute times to both downtown Denver and also to Denver International Airport can vary significantly depending on where we're talking about. But just for an average number to use in this example, I would put downtown Denver roughly at about a 25 to 30-minute drive. Maybe a little bit longer if you're in the far southeast corner of Aurora, areas like South Shore. And as far as getting out to Denver International Airport, a little bit easier in some of these spots because you have a great option, which is E470, which is a toll road and just a smooth sailing, nice, easy commute to the airport. So for some people that live in Aurora, you can have as little as maybe like 25, maybe even as low as 20 minutes, depending on where you're at. So very convenient if you are frequently traveling and going out to Denver International Airport. One of the coolest things that I want to share with you guys about Aurora, though, is how diverse it is. As I said, it truly is the most radically diverse suburb and just area within Colorado. So if you're looking for just tons of options for food and different types of activities and there's things to do that are very rich in culture, this could be your spot. When it comes to food, there's actually over 250 ethnic eateries all throughout Aurora, and a lot of these are on Havana Street. So definitely check out Havana Street if you're looking for authentic food. You won't be disappointed. Just a few examples of this that I really enjoy, one of them being some of the hot pots. So there's a lot of Korean barbecue and different types of Asian cuisine throughout Aurora. Also a great spot called Dan Da, which actually allows you to make your own Vietnamese spring rolls and egg rolls, which is a really fun, unique place to check out. One of the most popular ethnic foods right now is Ethiopian food, and there are plenty to choose from in Aurora. One of these being a place called Nile Ethiopian, just really authentic, great spot to check out and try something different. And then last but not least, there's another just very different type of place called the Mango House. And the Mango House is actually like a refugee community center combined with a food hall. And they have everything from Japanese, Burmese, even Nepalese food, just some of these foods that I had never even tried before, and I still haven't tried a lot of them, to be honest with you, but just some awesome experiences and just to try new things. So I think with cuisine and just the ethnic diversity that Aurora has, that makes it a very cool and unique place to consider here in Denver, Colorado. Now, another reason that Aurora is definitely worth considering, or at least looking a little bit deeper into, is because of its outdoor space. Lots of parks, lots of open space. In fact, Aurora actually has 103 parks and over 5,000 acres of open space and trails. It's not only close to Aurora Reservoir, but it's also very close to Cherry Creek State Park. Cherry Creek State Park actually has one of the best off-leash dog parks in the state. So if you have a little pup that you like to take out and enjoy maybe off-leash activities with, Cherry Creek State Park is a great option. They can also jump in the river and just the area right around Cherry Creek Lake. It's just an awesome experience, so definitely check that out. And I think this probably is even more so at this point, but I know there's at least 5 municipal golf courses. Definitely a lot more than that when you look into the semi-private and private courses, but lots of golf courses in the Aurora area. And I think part of that too is just because there's a lot more space. You have a lot more land available to continue to expand and grow, where other areas like Lakewood, Wheat Ridge, areas that have already pretty much been developed, they don't have that ability to keep expanding. So I think one thing that Aurora has going for it is there's always new opportunities out there. There's new construction communities, new build communities, there's new parks, new golf courses, new state parks, all different things like that are constantly improving and just becoming a reality in this southern and eastern part of Denver in the city of Aurora. So one thing I thought that would be really helpful for you guys is to break down Aurora, since it is so massive, into just the different, kind of the biggest or most commonly known areas within Aurora. So I put this down to 4 kind of different areas, starting with number 1, which is going to be Southeast Aurora. So Southeast Aurora is where I've spent the most time of these 4 areas, and that's because most recently I just had a listing in this area in South Shore. South Shore blew me away. I'd been in the area before and driven, kind of through this part of the Aurora area. But But man, when I started going here on a consistent basis, I just became more and more in love with this part of Aurora. And that's for a few different reasons that I'll share. But first off, just how many great parks and trails, the availability to go right onto Aurora Reservoir, just right out your back door, and it's the awesome master plan community. So I'm not going to go deep into that at this time, but if you guys want, I'll have a link for a video up above here all about South Shore if you want to learn a little bit more about that specific part of Aurora. But in addition to South Shore, when talking again about Southeast Aurora, you've got South Shore, but you also have Talon's Reach and you have Beacon Point. These are very, very close to South Shore, and these are all in that coveted Cherry Creek School District. So that was Southeast. Now let's just talk about North Aurora. So North Aurora is also sometimes known as the Fitzsimmons part of Aurora, or the Fitzsimmons area. And this is really close to the CU Anschutz Medical Center. Definitely have more opportunities in this part of Aurora for rental and investment property opportunities. You'll find a lot of both medium and large size multifamily properties. So for apartments, you might find some like 200 to 300 unit complexes in this part of Aurora. So lots of opportunity for any real estate investors out there. And North Aurora, I think doesn't have quite the same just wow factor that areas like South Shore and Talon's Reach have, but there is definitely a value to being in the north part of Aurora because you are that much closer and centralized to a lot of the area surrounding it, including going to downtown Denver, which would be just a little west of there. The third part of Aurora that I want to share is Northeast Aurora. So going a little bit east from where we've just been talking about, and this would be areas like Aurora Highlands and also Painted Prairie. Seeing a ton of new development in this area, lots of new construction homes, lots of opportunities if you guys are considering a new construction home. I think this is part of the Denver area that has the most out there, lots to choose from. And another big benefit is it's closer to DIA. So maybe somebody that's looking for that easy access, that convenience of being only maybe 15 to 20 minutes away from the airport, this northeast portion of Aurora might be your best bet. And then last but not least, the fourth part of Aurora that I want to share is just Central Aurora. And this is kind of encompassing that Havana Street that I mentioned earlier, where there's a ton of the ethnic food options available. So if this is a part of Aurora that you haven't spent much time in, and maybe even if you're not that serious about that part of Aurora for accommodations or for living, still is definitely worth driving through just to grab lunch at a new spot, something that maybe you've never tried before. So now that you have those four areas that I kind of categorize as the main four for Aurora, I also just want to share briefly a little bit more on real estate, specifically just what you can expect to find in each of these. And as I said, Aurora is huge. It's over 164 square miles, so massive, almost 400,000 residents. So because of all that, there's a lot of options for real estate and for housing. There's definitely a lot of affordable and move-in ready options available, usually those new construction home communities. And a lot of the time when you see statistics for different areas around Denver, these parts of Aurora have actually the most affordable of anywhere in the entire city of Denver. So if you are in a bit of a price point or a budget that you really don't want to go above, there's a good chance that Aurora could be where a lot of the homes are located that you might find intriguing. I'm seeing right now a lot of updated move-in ready homes. Most of these are even brand new for in that low $500,000 range. So obviously that's still a very pretty penny, but that would be an example of some homes that in other parts of Denver, like maybe Golden or areas out west, that same exact home could be, maybe another $200,000 to $300,000 more expensive. Maybe a 2,500 square foot home in Aurora at $500,000 could end up being $700,000 or $800,000 out in Golden, or maybe even just west of Aurora in southwest Littleton area. So big differences when it comes to just the price point of homes, and definitely some good deals out there in Aurora. There are some more established neighborhoods, but as I said, a lot of Aurora is going to be these newer built communities, especially just when it comes to the areas that are the most popular right now and seeing the most interest with buyers. So with that being said, the three kind of master plan communities that I think are worth sharing, first off is South Shore, which I shared a little bit about earlier but definitely look into South Shore. Then number two is Painted Prairie. Painted Prairie is a 640 acre, very, very nice development. It was built very recently, only in about 2020, and it already has, when I looked the other day, I think they had over 900 families already living in this area. So we have South Shore, we have Painted Prairie, and then the third one for these master plan communities in Aurora is a new one called Aurora Highlands. And this one is still in progress, but it is massive. All in, they're expecting about 12,500 planned homes. They're actually gonna have 12 parks, 4 schools, And I've even heard them tease that there'll be a beach club built out once it's all said and done. So I'm really excited to see what happens with that development over the next couple of years. All right, so let's just kind of wrap all this up. I know we've been kind of jumping around a bit, but there is quite a bit to share with Aurora, so hopefully I've at least kind of given you guys little tastes of different aspects. But I just want to close it out with a kind of a summary of some of the pros and some of the cons. So first off, let's talk about the pros. So the first pro is definitely going to be the food and just the ethnic diversity that Aurora has. The most diverse suburb in all of Denver. I mean, that's saying something. So definitely a big pro in my opinion when it comes to that. Also, quite a wide variety of types of housing, everything from very affordable to some areas in Aurora that have quite the luxury type environment. I would even classify some as ultra luxury. Another pro would definitely be tons of parks, trails, golf courses, and just a lot more open space to see that continue to grow and improve in the years to come. Also, another pro would be the school system. The fact that a lot of the homes in Aurora do feed into the Cherry Creek public school system, which is one of the top rated in the state. And then last but not least, my last pro would be just the convenience and easy access to Denver International Airport. You know, everybody's traveling more and more these days, so I think this has become even more of a priority for some, but also just a very nice to have good feature of a home if you happen to have it, where it's not a huge pain in the butt to get to and from the airport. So having a lot of the access to the airport within 20 minutes, that's a win for me. So now let's talk just about a couple cons, a couple negatives, maybe a couple things that are worth considering as well. So the first con is definitely going to be the school system. And since I also share this as a pro, what I want to elaborate on with it here is that yes, you do have some homes that feed into that really popular, because it's so great, the Cherry Creek public school system, highly rated on niche.com. But there's other schools that also get fed into in other parts of Aurora that don't get rated nearly as high on sites like niche.com. So if you do have kiddos, or just the education system is important to you when it comes to where you want to live, I would do a little bit more homework. Feel free to reach out to me. I can share a lot more on this as well, just to find out exactly what parts of Aurora are or are not feeding into the school systems that you prefer. So definitely look a little bit deeper in on that one. And then another con would just be that since it is so large, you know, the third largest city in Colorado, you lose a little bit of that neighborhood feel, some of that quaint environment where you walk down the street and, you know, maybe see people that you know and are able to wave to them. You can find that in other areas, but in Aurora, it's a little bit more challenging just because there are so many people. And then the third thing I think is important to at least realize is regarding this commute times and traffic. So depending on where you're trying to get to from where you live in Aurora, you might be faced with really not having any other options than taking some of these very busy roads like I-25, I-225, and that Havana road that does have some great restaurants, but can also get quite bogged down. So depending on where you need to get to, if you need to get all the way out west as an example, that might be a little bit of a hindrance. So if commuting and just getting around to different parts of Denver is important to you, I would just recommend that you look a little deeper into what parts of Aurora might serve you the best. All right, guys, well, there you have it. Hopefully you saw there's quite a few more pros than cons in my opinion, but that's up to you to make that ultimate decision. And if this is an area that is interesting and you'd like to learn a little bit more about it, feel free to reach out. Again, put all that info down below. Also, though, I want to remind you guys, I have a locals guide to Denver where I actually share over 20 of my favorite neighborhoods, just all the best spots around the entire Denver metro area. So make sure you get a free copy of that. You can click the link down in the show notes, or you can also just look on adamsellsdenver.com and you can find it there. But there's a lot of other great spots. If this maybe isn't exactly what you're looking for, I guarantee there's somewhere else that'll be perfect. So looking forward to sharing a brand new episode with you guys on living in Denver next week. Until then, have a great rest of your day, and I look forward to seeing you guys then.